Hello and welcome back to Spirit of Nature Art and the final episode of Curious Birds. And this is where we got to last time. We've done a lot of all the kind of more tricky work and we just had these last few pages left to work on. And then I got distracted. My two mama ducks here hatched out 18 little joyful bundles of fluff. So my time has been mostly spent down in the garden with these guys rather than in my art room. But I have been back there to finish off these final pages. So this bird here was actually one of the first ones that I cut out of the Collage Soup Bird Nerd book, which is what all of the images from in this book have been taken from. So I've hardly got anything left in there now. It's just a few scraggly pages. This bird was kind of what started everything off. So I'm kind of really pleased to get him down. I'm just playing around with some of the digitals that I've used throughout the whole project. So I've got some Tracy Fox labels. I have got some of the number strips that are also Tracy Fox. That one that I'm using there is from the Currator, Tim Holtz Currator stamp set. And just kind of collaging this up in the same kind of style as the rest of the book. So just trying to kind of bring these pages into everything else that we've already done. And this page here I kind of see as somewhere where, you know what, I would love to see lots of writing around this bird on the tea dye paper. You know, blank spaces, they need filling. And I think in terms of journaling for me, this is what I love, having some kind of focal image on the page and then to be able to write around that means that I'm not stuck with a blank page syndrome. So just settling this guy down a bit on the page with some of these extra bits and pieces, and I will come in and do some stamping on here as well. But now what I'm trying to do is add the main things to these pages. This was the second one I fussy cut out of the book. And ironically, these two being the first I cut out are the last ones I put in. And I'm giving these wonderful swans with their top hats the same treatment as we have lots of the other dressed up birds in this project. So I've cut along the kind of ribbon line of their top hats and putting some of the kind of I think these are mostly Tracy Fox number strips I think that I'm using here. So just inking those up and sticking them in. So it just looks like they've got little kind of like labels or tickets sticking out of their hat. Just gives them that slightly extra kind of dapper look, I feel. So again, just adding more of those details from the digital sets. So I think this is a Tracy Fox one. I tend to kind of, all of my things end up getting a little bit muddled in together, but I liked the kind of the black detail on here and it almost had a kind of slightly Art Deco-y look that seemed to fit with those swans. So yeah, just bringing in what kind of felt right. A few more extra labels as well, just to kind of soften that image and add those extra details in. And again, bringing in more of those to settle it on to the page. So just playing around with these and how they are going to work. I like things to be layered. The more layers you've got, the more depth there appears to be on that page as well. And kind of helps those swans to kind of pop off the page. But again, plenty of journaling space around those swans. So this is how I like to do my collages. You've probably seen this if you've watched any of my other videos. I'll get things in the right place and then just dab a little bit of glue down to get those in the position that I want so that I can then remove that from the page. Do stamping, here we go. Do some stamping. Again, this is a stamp I've used all the way through. So the stamp should be in the list in the description. Just a kind of bit of a ledger stamp there with some numbers and some text on, and I'm not aiming for full for getting a full kind of print. I'm just looking for bits and pieces just to get that kind of sense of something in the background there, and that I believe is Vintage Photo Distress Oxide. And again, I've used the same all the way through the project, so even though each page is completely different, there are similar elements on it that pull through on each one. So again, these little splatter stamps here, again, I've used on other pages, and the details of those will be in the description box. So now I've got all that detail there in the background, I can now stick my lovely swans down, and again the stamping in the background becomes another layer. So again, just helps that whole picture to settle on the page. And I'm just adding an eyelet to the little tab that is there so that we can pop a little bit of a fabric through there. I think I have a little bit that's left over from doing the tabs on the accordion card page, so I will pick that out and pop that in there as well. Now these two areas here where these hinges are, I kind of want to cover those up where the hinges are because it looks a little bit kind of messy. I want to cover those joints up, but I got distracted in the process, so I've gone to this page instead. We'll come back and cover up those joints in a moment. So this is the page that sits behind the book within the book. So it has that nice little tuck spot, and also this kind of background page as well. So I want people to be able to use, I say people, whoever ends up owning this book, to be able to use as much of the background pages for journaling as possible. So we're going to pop our little hummingbird there, which again echoes what's on the front of the book within a book, and create a couple of specific areas for journaling around the hummingbird there, but also in that strip to the side that creates the tuck spot. So I'm just going to pop some lines there using this stamp here, just to kind of create some journaling lines, just to add a kind of different element to the page so it's not all blank. So again, just using the vintage photo Oxide, and again, not really worrying about whether I get a full impression of that stamp. It's just about, you know, we want this to look like it's been around maybe a few hundred years. So it doesn't matter that it is a little bit hit and miss. The stamp itself is designed like that. And that's one of the reasons why I like to use the distress inks for this kind of stamping. If I want a really clear, crisp, full, proper image, then I will use either an archival ink or a VersaFine Clair, something like that. But I quite like the kind of slightly not perfect stamping that you get from the distress inks. So back from that little distraction, I'm back onto wanting to cover up these hinges inside those pages. So just taking a little bit of card off one of my leftover file folders that I've used for some of the inserts in this project, and I'm just using my little notch maker there to create a notch, I guess, so that we can create another tuck spot. So that notch and this kind of shape of tuck spot mirrors what we already did, I think back in the second episode when we made those very first tuck spots with those very kind of like gentleman raven birds. So this is one of the pages that I did have left over in the Bird Nerd Collage Soup book with all these beautiful feathers on. So I thought this would be a really nice kind of feature for the tuck spot on that page. So I have just put glue all over that little bit of card that I have just cut from that file folder and just stuck that piece of paper down onto it. Just trimming around that and trimming around the little notch that we cut out there with the notch maker. Sorry, it's just dropped off screen there. There we go. So inking this up, I'm not just going to ink the edges, I am going to ink a little bit of the background as well, just to kind of soften that bright white. And then I'm just going to put some glue on the long edge and the top and the bottom so that we can put that there, cover up where that hinge was, and create another tuck spot. So I have created two of those tuck spots. We've got one here and one here, so that we've covered up both of those hinges. I've got these little envelopes here. I'll show you how to make those in a moment to put in those tuck spots. But for now, I'm just kind of playing around with some extra details to put on those pages because they look quite plain in comparison to everything else we've done so far. So I have these other birds here that I fussy cut out of the Collage Super book. I thought they looked quite fancy. So I am collaging them down onto the page, Same deal as with every other page, using some of those digital labels to be able to settle those images onto the page, and then add some stamping around that as well, so that we get that kind of cohesive feel all the way through. And the same on the other page. So I kind of gave you a sneaky peek of a little envelope that I'm going to make to put in all those tuck spots. So here is how I made these envelopes. Now, I cannot remember how I learned how to do these. I may well have learnt it from a video tutorial. I may well have been taught it by somebody at some point. I'm not really sure. So if anybody knows who kind of invented this, I think it's just an origami envelope, please let me know. But this I just did from memory. So first of all, we need a square. Once we've got our square, we fold it in half, but we don't burnish the other half. We only burnish half of it. You'll find out in a minute why. And then when we open that up, we're going to make a paper aeroplane, essentially. So we're going to fold those two corners in to create that long kind of paper aeroplane feel. And then we are going to fold that point up. It doesn't matter how high up it is above that line, it just needs to be above the line. But a good few centimeters is good. And then we're folding in those edges, burnishing as we go, and then we open that up and we pop that little flap back the other direction, so it goes inside and creates a gusset. So open it up where we've made the fold, pop that inside, and then fold that point down so that when we open it, it's all kind of stuck together. And we've got a little gusset. Please feel free to go back and slow that down and watch it again if you want to. But it's quite a simple origami little envelope. I've gone back and put a little bit of glue in certain places to hold it in position and inked it all. But these little envelopes, I'm going to put in all of those little tuck spots. So I'm going to decorate them in the same way as we have done a lot of the other little journaling cards in the book. So I'm bringing in that dictionary paper again and just ripping that down to size and inking that up, always starting with vintage photo and then going back in with a little bit of ground espresso. Those are the colours that I've chosen for this project, so I'm going to use them all the way through. And then sticking that down, I alternate which side I stick the paper down on so that we can see different aspects of the envelope when we put them in the pockets. Again, repeating that stamping, bringing it in some of those little labels. So these envelopes completely mirror the rest of the project. Now I want to make a little tuck spot there for the pointy bit of the envelope to go in. So I'm just going to use a label for that. So when I'm gluing this down, I just want to glue half of that kind of label, the bottom bit, and nearly kind of up to the top, probably maybe 2/3 up the sides there. So you can see I've just put that ruler in there to stop that from sticking down so that we can stick that little kind of point in there, and it just becomes a little tuck spot that means that that envelope has a closure. Especially because this is a gusset envelope, you've got more space to put things in, so you kind of want a bit of a closure to stop it from opening and everything falling out. Bit of stamping with my favourite splatter stamp. And now we have what looks like a really old envelope. I just made that out of some of the leftover tea dye paper from the pages. And that inking it up really kind of makes it look aged. And I wanted to add one more different element. So we've got a lot of the tags, we've got those envelopes, and what I wanted to do was to create some little file folders. So this was, I think this is from the Tim Holtz set. And I'm just creating these little gussets. So exactly the same way as we did for the file folder page earlier on. So just scored a little bit of card there to create these little gusset strips. Again, exactly the same. I can't remember which episode it was that we made the file folder cards, but this is exactly the same as that. Just adding some glue to those little gusset strips there so that we can close that folder up. There we go. And again, we've got space in there now for a little bit more stuff. I have decorated this exactly the same as I have done everything else. I didn't think I'd put you through having to watch all of that. So this can go in some of those tuck spots as well. So there we go. That's going to sit nicely in there. And oh my gosh, that means the project is done. It's finished. You'll notice I changed the catch because this got such a big bulky project that the original catch I put on just wasn't functioning anymore. We were asking it to do too much. So I put this slightly bigger catch on, and you can see, let me take you through all of the little extra kind of details that I have put in there. I love those little paper clips from 49 and Market. So lots of journaling space. And I love how these pages kind of flap out in both directions as well. In those tuck spots here, I have put some more tea dye paper and I've created some more little kind of journaling cards. I love these. These were eggs, whole page of eggs in that collage soup book. So I cut those out and backed them with tea dye paper to create some more fun little kind of journaling spots. Let me just pop that on there so the whole thing doesn't keep flapping open. And then we have our book within a book. I loved this, being able to use that old book cover. We have another tuck spot here, so I've put one of those little file folders in and loads of journaling space there. Quite a lot of signatures of tea dye paper and some more tea dye paper tucked away in our little file folder pocket there. And then we open onto this page, which has that tuck spot and all that journaling space, and some more journaling space on the back of the little envelope and inside. These pages have a lot of journaling space on the actual page, but again, even more so. There's plenty of room to tuck more stuff in these tucks here, but I thought I would just start off with some tea dye paper and popping a little bit in this envelope here. But look how much space is in that envelope. You could fit a whole load of ephemera in there, couldn't you? And then our swans. And I love how these little birds in their dresses look on the page. I think they're so fun. And this guy that started it all. So that's the left-hand side of the book. So much space to have loads of journaling fun. And then over to the right-hand side. So again, one of these paper clips with the little keys that I've put on it, just to hold that closed, which is nice. It's a bit more of a little secretive spot to do some journaling that's not kind of immediately visible. And then we have another one of those little eggs. And then we have another one of our little file folders with some more journaling space on the back and tea dye paper on the inside. Another little envelope there with more space for more journaling inside. And then tucked behind these guys, we have got some more journaling cards, again backed with tea dye paper, and then this really nice coffee dyed paper here, which I've also inked up just to give it that really aged feel, all tucked behind these. I mean, you're not going to argue with these guys to get to those journaling cards if you're not meant to, are you? And then I think this has to be my favourite section of the whole book, this lovely little accordion file here. Yeah, I absolutely love it. Absolutely chock full of journaling cards. Each one, every other card has got a feather on and every alternate card has a bird on. Loads and loads of space. Look at all of those little journaling cards there. I love them. And then this one, Actually, this one might be my actual favourite. I loved making this. Again, a bit of leftover book cover and creating that kind of concertina folder and these wonderful journaling cards. I love this bit. I mean, these images really do sum up the whole of the book, don't they? Curious birds. These guys are seriously curious. And then last but not least, tucked behind our little friend here is another, this is a larger die cut that I used, but the same thing, file folder, used gussets to add that extra space as well. But that's it. That is it. Curious Birds is finished. Oh my gosh, I hope you have enjoyed coming on this journey with me. I had no idea how this was going to turn out, but I am super, super pleased with it. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you for another project soon.